Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and today we're starting a series for Darksiders 2, the Deathinitive edition. Much like the sequel to the first game, well, let me rephrase that and say that correctly. The first game's remaster, very much like this remaster of Darksiders 2, are improvements in such a way that there's really no reason for me to even try to play Darksiders 2, the original version. I can't find it on Steam, nor can I find it in my collection, so I suspect I didn't even get around to purchasing Darksiders 2 before this version came out. Now, the idea of Darksiders before THQ went bankrupt, which was very shortly after this game came out in 2012, was that there was going to be a Zelda-ish action-adventure platforming game in the first game, Darksiders 1. We've played that, we've seen that, it was pretty good. It leaves you on a great cliffhanger ending. Unfortunately, this story takes place before the events of the first game, or at least most of the events of the first game. So you don't have anything continued with that cliffhanger. This game, instead of being an action-adventure platformer, at least when it was originally came out, was more of a hack-and-slash loot drop game, much in the vein of Diablo or Borderlands, which came later, although Borderlands is a hard reference to make because you're usually using weapons that are more bladed than just crazy guns like Borderlands is. But it's the same idea. This is an RPG game. It's got 4 different versions of difficulty on it. We're going to just try to play it one time. It's very easy. The new Definitive Edition changes the loot drops, does all kinds of new graphics, gets you up to 1080p or higher resolutions, which maybe we could look at right now. The game, when you first launch it, is a little weird because it just asks you for the difficulty setting, adjusting contrast, and subtitles. And then you have to get to this point in the game where the game actually right now is running. It's just got a pause menu on top of it, which is a very cool idea that never got really never got really implemented in most games. So, by default, I had to turn up the resolution and then shadow quality and anti-aliasing. I'm hoping this 2015 remaster can run at max with everything I have without giving me major problems. Otherwise, we're going to have to play. We'll have the subtitles on. The idea after this hack and slash loot drop for the third game was it was going to be a co-op game with the 2 remaining Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Since this is Death, the character in the first game was War, and Pestilence and Plague, or something like Pestilence and Plague. I don't think they were ever going to call Pestilence and Plague Pestilence and Plague. I think they were going to give them different names. That was going to be a co-op brawler type game of some sort. Certainly the series under THQ and Vigil had a little bit of a problem staying in tone with any kind of series. They wanted 4 very different types of games that causes it to be much less likely that anybody would like the entire series. Like, why would I want to play Darksiders 2 when you immediately advertise it as something different from Darksiders 1, very different from Darksiders 1. It suffers there, but that's not what put THQ out of business. And now Nordic Games, which has changed its name to THQ Nordic and is trying to be the new THQ by releasing far too many games and re-releasing old THQ games far too quickly, that they're overreaching. But hopefully they can get enough money and stay on track long enough to release the game Darksiders 3 that they're working on, which is going back to the roots of the first game. as an action platformer with just one more of the Four Horsemen, although I suppose it is Horsewoman because it is a lady in Darksiders 3 as they're working on it with a whip attack that seems like it will be alright to play with as long as they keep it pretty fast. My main concern so far on the early production is that it seems like it's kind of slow to defeat enemies, and it kind of was slow to defeat enemies in the first game. That's probably all the setup I can tell you right now for Darksiders 2 and where we are. We're waiting in 2018 for Darksiders 3 to come out. Hopefully it does come out and is successful. We could get to Darksiders 4. That could be the end of the series, and then maybe a soft reboot for this series that will probably be a decade old by the time they finish it, and maybe they could rethink things, or maybe that'll just be the end of the series and it'll be good enough. There probably are some story elements, and there definitely are some characters that I remember once I see them, but I couldn't name any of them really. A little weird on this menu. Like right now, to get back to the save selection, you have to hit B. To continue, you have to hit A on continue. And so you're just in the game right now, at the very beginning. And when you quit, it loads out, but it loads out to something that looks like the game. So that's some weirdness. And then, like, why does it need to load out, but it's already loaded in? Like, that whole screen probably doesn't need to be there. Anyways, you don't exit the desktop to go back to save screen. You go here. We'll go ahead and erase the first save slot, and we'll start the game to see the backstory, which will sort of explain what's going on. It's a little disappointing, I would say, this intro, because I don't think we're going to get to see the apocalypse as it's happening, and that means we don't get to see the pre-rendered, very attempted to be very realistic graphics of humans and people on Earth before the apocalypse happens. I guess it doesn't really matter, because you're never really going to play in that time frame anyways, but it was certainly something very ambitious they had at the beginning of the game. Maybe after they get to Darksiders 4, they could have some prequel games set before the apocalypse, but I don't know. It starts to make it just look like probably just make the game look like a modern first-person shooter style game instead of a Zelda-esque fantasy game. Anyways, let's begin. Sorry for the long setup. So yes, this is all you see when you first launch, except for the logos, which the logos certainly are different than the Deathinitive edition. Adjust your gamma, which gamma is the white level. Well, it's actually the range of your white levels on your screen. So if you have a bad TV that doesn't have very much of a range, or you just have bad eyesight and you don't want blacks to actually be inky dark black, but instead you prefer them to be gray, you would lower your gamma. And if you have a very good TV with a very high range, where you do want the blacks to be inky dark blacks and the whites to be the brightest, blindingly bright whiteness you can get, you turn your gamma up. Most people, however, once you've got your TV set up and calibrated, you'd never change the gamma in a game at all.
There can be no life without order. Good, evil, darkness, light. There must be balance in the universe. Such is the decree of the Charred Council. an ancient body charged by the Creator to preserve the very fabric of existence. But the balance has been broken. Even now, Earth smolders in ruin, fallen to the demon lords, and the Destroyer carves a new kingdom amongst his mighty chosen. Some say the Horseman War triggered the apocalypse, that he rode to Earth unbidden and doomed all of mankind. But what of the other Horsemen, fearless enforcers of the Council's will? What of fury, strife, and death? To know those names,
so Fury,
you must first know another.
I guess, is the character of the third game.
Cursed union of angel and demon. The Nephilim, countless realms pursued and burned them to ash. But 4 amongst them grew weary of the slaughter and feared their conquest would imperil the balance. And so a truce was made. The 4 would serve the Council in exchange for unimaginable power. Thus were the dreaded Horsemen formed, and the Riders' first task was to purge their own brethren from creation, to annihilate the Nephilim and destroy their souls. Let us now cast our gaze to one amongst the 4, not War, who lies chained at the Council's feet, professing his innocence, but one who would save his brother above all else. He has many names: Kinslayer, Executioner, Death.
They try to make Death look cool, but he doesn't come off as the coolest character. War seems a lot cooler in my memory than
To
Death
bargain
was.
for War's freedom, Death swore that he would resurrect humanity. But he knew not how this might be done. And so Death rode forth into the icy veil to find the Keeper of Secrets.
So is the Icy Veil on Earth, or is it in some other realm completely? Do I play any of this game? Birds just leap on my head. Find a way to save War, find the Keeper of Secrets. So this is where you start. No going back. If you wanted to. I was just trying to look for collectibles. So glows whenever despair is available for use. We're in the Veil, which is an argument that we are not on Earth. So apparently the explanation on why the Four Horsemen look so different is that all Nephilim, I suppose, are supposed to be... There you go, we'll jump off and see how controlling works. Each Nephilim, I guess, looks completely different from every other Nephilim and is its own thing. Death being all skin and bones like a dead person, riding a pale-ish horse. A, holding down, seems to give it a slight nudge forward. You can take a moment to look around the skybox. It's not bad. They certainly updated some of the graphics. I'm not sure if they updated all the graphics. Okay. And so we may be able to find a few things that are just not as good looking. And I would have thought I would have gotten a tutorial mission to make the horse run faster. So, Press right bump to dodge incoming attacks. So we've got numbers popping above the heads, which I don't believe was the case before. I believe there's a cliff that just fell down here. And this feels very different to what we did in the previous game. So hold the back button to equip better weapons. Hold the graves to equip that. And we found a piece of equipment which we can hit B to pick up. Now the good news with the Definitive Edition, if we hit start here, is there is this auto collect button that's not on by default, but I think it is a genius feature to have in any game if it works the way I assume it's going to work. It wants me to press Y to see my strong attack and just see this weapon come out of nowhere. And then X, my swords come out of nowhere. It would have been nice if those two things had been connected in some way, so that this would have turned the weapon into the other weapon. Just having it appear seems kind of sucky. Left bump brings up the menu. Right bump might be the closest thing to a speed up in the process. And I'm not sure if there's really any hidden collectibles or anything. There's no double jump right now. These could be features that we get later, or it could just be that Death is much more of a fighter and much less of a ability collector compared to War, both of which are feasible possibilities. I would like the game to eventually have me find something, if there ever is going to be something to find, or just after a while I'm going to learn to give up. So back button brings up this menu that has kind of a considerable amount of things. Look at what we've got here. We have our scythe, level 1. It's got an experience, a health, a wrath, strength, defense, arcane, resistance, primary weapon, second weapon. Like, just 3 pages of information coming up. And I guess the stats are the same for no matter what. But then you also have the Y button that will show you more info, some backstory. There's no shoulder weapons, no armor weapons, no gloves weapons we have right now. And I suppose we don't have like a weight. It doesn't seem like there's a stat for carry weight, so I don't think you're ever going to become encumbered. I think you'll just probably run into having a full inventory. And then you need the D-pad up and down the scroll descriptions. I think we now know that Despair is the horse and Dust is the bird. They're all D names. And there were certainly, I believe, maybe 3 or 4 ranges of different paths in which you could play your skill points. And now it seems like you can be a harbinger or you can be a necromancer. Let's see. What does... If I go down harbinger, there's this true incarnation that I think it's not connected, so that probably will unlock, or this will unlock. I'm trying to see if there would be anything that would give us more skill points, because I'm pretty sure in the first game there was, but this time it doesn't even seem like there is. It'll just come down to, do I want to be a necromancer and summon allies, or do I want to go it alone and fight things myself? I imagine I probably want to go fight things myself. Unfortunately, unless the Deathinitive edition really rebalances things, we're not going to get enough skill points to do all of these in one playthrough. Right now we're at the Vale, we have this quest, it's a beginning map, clearly. Lots of stats. Lots of numbers that don't need to really be displayed. They've kind of stopped doing that, and I'm kind of happy for that. It's just no longer is it really necessary to tell somebody what their highest combo or total kills are in a game. And let's see. This is, I guess, tutorials just on combos. So the combo systems still are here. It just, at least right now, doesn't feel like the game needs, well, it doesn't feel like the enemies are as strong as they were in the first game. Like, the first game, you really did need to do a 25 hit combo on every single enemy before they would die. So I'm hoping we'll get a little bit more of platforming and a little bit more of the power puzzles. We could go wall and jump. Let's see. Just to run around the wall. Barely made that. So we got some wall jumping, some platforming, and we've got our actions. He's got these like ghoulish he's got these ghoulish hands that open the chest for him, and they gave him, I believe that was currency. We've got to get it right. Oh, good news is that didn't kill me. Which probably means it could have also fallen down there. Yep. So the game was teaching you, if you see a bit of a ledge on one side, it's probably an instance of. Now, is there, under the options, a way to turn off damage indicator? Because no. See, I had this problem before, but I left the game running. But I have seen this, where the game just locks into this, I don't know what you'd call this, thing. Like, I can hit escape and it doesn't do anything. So how good is the autosave? I guess it would be the question. Let's see. We hit Alt F4 and see if that escapes. Yes, it does. So you have to, or you want to be at least, a little bit careful on this game so that you don't change settings too much once you've got the settings where you want them. So Nordic games, now known as THQ Nordic, give it another year that they call themselves just THQ again. Now, part of the problem with them continuing Darksiders 3 and when there is a slight risk is that Vigil Games, unless I'm completely misremembering, is not around. It's a completely shut down game developer, so somebody else has to be making this game, Darksiders 3, and assumedly Darksiders 4. So they could screw up in several different ways. But the damage indicators are off, and I think that is the right move. I do not want to see numbers popping up for this game because it doesn't matter. There's only two states that matter in a game like this. Is the enemy dead, or is the enemy alive? And once they're dead, we're done with them. Of course, because this is a loot grindy game, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I can't go this way, it's just interesting. It really doesn't make any sense to not play the game. See, we can see there's some kind of creature over there. Maybe it's somebody we're looking for. Death can trust wooden beams in your button while jump A towards the beams to grab onto them. And it seems like you don't do anything with those bells. It looks like there could have been a puzzle. And then you have to left trigger and then jump. So that guy keeps turning into birds. I imagine we'll run into the shopkeeper. Now in the first game there were souls as a currency and you could break things to get souls out of them. Here it seems like you're collecting something that looks a lot more like gold than souls. I guess getting away from the idea of collecting souls helps with this game potentially maintain and not going higher in the rating. But it does seem like the exchange changed. It implies that we're not going to actually be doing the shopkeeper of the first game, which is oddly inconsistent. Although the reason might be that we're collecting gold coins because there's the old story of 2 coins to pay the ferryman when you die. Jump this way. It's pretty fluid. Pretty fluid transversal there. They've got a different kind of enemy. That one had a blue prompt on it, which gave me some health. And I killed it. Fighting ice monsters, which opens the door for more variety of enemies. The first game was pretty redundant on the number of enemies. It was a fine amount for the first game, but it'd be nice if we see twice as many enemies in the second game. Just bringing back the old ones, some of the old ones, and mixing it with new ones. Unfortunately, due to the game locking up, which this came out in 2015, it was the remastered version, so it would run on Windows 10 and just work better. And let's see, we have one that we can accept and equip, and we have one we can equip to increase our appearance. I don't think it's a real smart move to have the characters animate their different outfits. It seems like it's, particularly for a single player game, that's a lot of programming that they didn't need to do. So yeah, because of the slow start, because of the lockup and having to do it again, we're going to have to wrap up this here. I imagine there will be more transversal. Eventually we'll have something of a map that will, let's see, we are here, and if we're gonna change map levels, it seems like we're probably either going to be finished pretty quickly, or we're going to fall down into a fight. Let's start with that. No skill points, nor does it seem like our Reaper gauge is really even filling up. According to the game timer, we only played for 13 minutes and 52 seconds. That's not accurate. Well, maybe it is accurate, but we've been going for 30 minutes. And I'm certainly going to have to look up a response to this. Like, I cannot have the game locking up every time we leave a menu like this. This is not acceptable, particularly since we don't have guarantees that the loot that we just picked up will be saved. So, yep. I don't think we're too close, really, to the idea of maybe having to rage quit this game just because the Definitive Edition doesn't actually work, but I am certainly going to have to fix that. Like, this is unacceptable to hit the start button just by default to exit out, which is exactly what I normally would do, and to hit this menu and then have no way to get back to the game. Anyways, that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Steam, or Battle.net, all of those links are down below in the description box. And if you want to support my channel, I'm asking people now to gift me either a game or a gift card from Steam. That helps more than trying to run ads. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.